time that you go to worship, that God would be right there. That it wouldn't have to, be a calling in His presence, that He's just going to be there. That you just get to sit there and listen to that, to Him teach you. How awesome is that going to be? How awesome is that going to be? I want to thank Earl, before I forget. Earl has started a new company, 2 men in a truck. Earl movers. He said that he'll undercut all the Lexus movers. He said that him and his grandson are going to start a business. I want to thank Earl. I don't know how long they worked, but I left. I had to go get the boys, but I know they still had quite a bit left. But he helped Kathleen and all been moved to Lexington. So, like I said, I know she was greatly appreciated. I know that they had quite a bit of stuff in that little house. It's how they got it in there is beyond me, but they got it in there, and I assume it all came out because it all was like that. But thank you, Brother Earl, for stepping up and showing that family some love. In 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 1 to 10, is where I'm going to come from this. And I got to thinking this week about what it is that God wanted me to share. And I'd actually started looking at a kind of a different direction, and the Lord brought me to this. And the thought was that there's many times that we get in situations that we feel powerless, that we feel hopeless, that we feel down, that we feel like there's no way to get out of that situation. That every time we turn around, it seems like there's another obstacle we got to get around, that there's something in our way, or it just seems like it's a struggle. But this is what the God word, or the Word of God says about this. In 2 Corinthians 12, 1 and 12, 7 to 10, it says, "At least I should exalt above measures." It says, "By abundance of revelation, the thorn in the flesh was given unto me, a measure of Satan, to buffer me. At least I exalt above the measure. Concerning these things, I plead with the Lord 3 times, that it might depart from me. And He said to me, My grace is sufficient for you. My strength is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, gladly I'd rather boast about my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Therefore, I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproach, in need, in the persecution, in distress, for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong." We asked the church, said amen. Y'all may be seated. God is an awesome God. God is an awesome God. He deserves our praise. He is worthy to be praised. And I'm going to look at this text and I want to read it again. And I want you to really listen to what Paul is trying to say here. That God was revealing to him. In verse 9, he says, "But my grace is significant for you." He says that my power is to be made perfect in your weakness. Now do you understand what Paul was trying to say there, church? What he was trying to basically say was that no matter what we are facing, that God's power is perfect in our weakness. When we are weak, God's power is going to be perfect, and He's going to get us through that trouble that we're going through. If you look at the word grace, see Paul was writing this right here, and this was a vision that Paul had many years ago. I believe it said it was about 14 years ago. And Paul was writing this, and he was kind of in the third person. And basically when he opened up this chapter, and a lot of, the question would be is why is Paul talking about this 14 years from that later? And why is he kind of writing this in the third person? And basically it was because that he did not want to become full of himself, and he didn't want to boast about what that God had gave him this thorn in his flesh. Now we might say, well, why are we talking about this 14 years later? And why, again, why is he still in the third person? And like I said, and he basically he didn't want to boast, but that God had revealed to him. How many times have we been in a situation that we look back many years later and we realize that we went through that situation for what it was for? All of a sudden, God just kind of turned on that light bulb and we said, oh, that is why I went through that. This moment right here in my life is why I went through that many years ago, is to stand where I'm standing right now. I can say that without a shadow of a doubt, on that June the 2nd, when I went through that car wreck, all the stuff that happened before, the divorce and everything that I went through that I didn't understand, I can stand here and tell you that I went through every bit of that to stay where I'm standing right now. It's that God had a plan for me, and He knew that where the path that I was going on, and He knew that He was going to have to get my attention, and that He was going to have to do it in a way that most people was a little more than what most people. Because He knew that I was already making a plan for my future, and I really wasn't seeking God. But see, God knew. He knew that day what He was doing when that car wreck happened, when all that stuff that happened. He knew what He was doing. And see, many times when we go through a situation, like I said, as many years later, we realize what it was that we were going through that situation. But see, Paul goes on to say that thorn was challenging and it was irritating to him. And see, and just like a situation, it can be irritating, it can be challenging. We sometimes we meet those people that can be irritating. Sometimes we can be in a situation at work or a situation in life that's just absolutely irritating. We don't know why we're in it. Sometimes it can be a challenge that, we look at it and say, God, I can't get through this. God, this is a big mountain that I can't get over. But see, Paul was sitting there and he said he asked God 3 times to remove it. See, the first 2 times, God didn't say anything to him. But then on the 3rd time, God said, my grace. He said, my grace is sufficient. He said, my grace is sufficient. So my power is to be made perfect. And for what? For our weakness. His power is made perfect for our weakness. His grace is enough. See, and Paul begins to, and Paul was saying, basically what Paul was saying, he says, I am weak. I am weak. See, and we really need to say that in times that we need to be able to say that we are weak. You see, when he said that, see, he began to boast, and he was more glad about his weakness. And see, when he started boasting about his weakness, that's when the power of Christ might rest on him. See, we need to get in that mindset. I know that's kind of hard to do, but see, we need to boast about our weakness, to where that power of God can rest upon us. You see, when it starts resting upon us, and that's kind of where I want to talk about is that we have the power. See, that sometimes that we have the power, even though we feel powerless. We have the power, even though sometimes that we feel powerless. See. I'm going to get real just for a little bit. See, and I sit down, I'm convinced without a shadow of a doubt that each and every one of us have been through a situation in our lives that we can sit down, we can look at, that we can say that we have felt powerless, that we have felt weak, that we felt tired, that we felt like we could just give up and throw the towel in. Situations that have just wear us down. Situations that doesn't seem like God just doesn't care. Has drained us. We feel hopeless. Sometimes we feel humiliated. We feel fed up. We feel weary. We feel bogged down and worried. and we're worried about things going on in the world and things in our lives. We just worry. But see, I want to share what I thought may be uncomfortable and easy, but painful. But see, right here, it's right here. See, sometimes God wants us to be in those situations. He wants us to be right there, even though we pray and we say, God, can you take us out of this? But see, sometimes God wants us to be in that painful. Sometimes God wants us to be in that situation just for a little bit or just for a while, because He wants us to become weak and vulnerable. And you may say, you might be thinking, well, that doesn't make any sense. But see, as long as everything is peachy and keen, and we feel like everything, that everything in our lives, that we don't need God, if we feel like we've got a handle on everything, if everything is under control and everything's going along, we kind of get stuck in that cruise control. But it's when that things get haywire, when things in our life, we become weak and everything kind of gets chaos. That's when we begin to really see God move. And that's when God makes us strong in Him. See, I wish there was somebody here that could stand up and that could tell me about a time they've been in that situation. I'm sure most of us can stand up and tell a situation that we've been in, that God has brought them from, that they were down in that valley, and that God has reached down and pulled them up. See, and that's when God works best, is when we are weak, because when we are weak, that's when God makes His power evident and His glory. And that's when we are strong. When we are weak, He makes us strong. Like I said last week, when we get to that spot in our lives, in our journey, and sometimes we get into that trial and we don't feel like we can go on, that's when He picks us up. And He continues to carry us. And He continues to move forward with us. Even though we don't feel like we can go on, He is right there beside us. He is picking us up. He's pushing us along. See? And it's because it is only then that we can truly say that He is the Lord when He does that. And I'm trying to figure out. And I know some people are too. But see, when I first read this, I started thinking. I said, how can we have the power if we feel powerless? But see, I started looking back at these verses, and this is what, when I started praying, and this is what the Lord said. He says, how can I be powerless if I still have the power? And it said, if I can become powerless and still have the power when I am weak, then what do I do when I get strong? And then the next text, if you read right there, it says, I felt, and it says that I can go away. Place. And these things in order to if you read that next text, see, we can go on, and he says that His power is our strength. See, and the first way to receive that power is that we've got to acknowledge our weakness before God. See, God wants us to become to Him humble, and He wants us to, and so we must acknowledge our weakness. And because so long that we think that we really have it together, and we still are, and everything is still in our control, in our lives, in our destiny, or in our control, he can't move. But once we go to God and we reveal to Him, we tell Him what our weaknesses are, and we confess to Him, then that's when He begins to move. But until then, He can't move, and because we don't acknowledge our weakness. See, if you look at that next text, that next verse, Paul says, to my glory and my infirmities, or my weakness. See what he's saying right there. See, he's going to God and he's acknowledging his weaknesses. So the first thing we must do in order to receive that true power is admit the fact that we are weak. We got to, because without God, we are weak. So we got to admit to Him that we are weak. But then the second thing we've got to do to receive that power is to accept our weaknesses. See, Paul accepted his weaknesses, and because he began to glorify in his own weaknesses, and he began to accept them. He was okay with them. And see, when we start accepting them, this is the reason why that there's a lot of people that are running around in churches today. Because they can't accept their weaknesses. They think that they're all that in a bag of chips. They think they got everything under control. They think that they want to put on this front that everything is hunky-dory, that everything is under control, that they don't have any weaknesses. They want to put on this front. See, that's a myth and that's an illusion that a lot of people want to put on. But see, as Christians, see, really truthfully, if you look at it, Christians are probably some of the most weakest and the most fragile people that are out there. See, and it's because, when we stop acting like we've got everything together, and we want to walk around and all dressed up in our nice clothes and all that, and put this front on. See, we need to get tired. We need to stop putting that front on. See, people go to the hairdressers and then they don't want to sweat. They don't want to. They go and they get their clothes all ironed, or they go to get them in the dry cleaners and they don't want to get them wrinkled. But see, that's not what it's about. See, God is trying to really get our attention. See, but at first we must acknowledge, then we must accept our weakness in order to receive that true power. See, but not only that, then the final thing we must do is to receive that true power, is to admire our weakness. Again, if we look at these verses, at these texts, Paul said in verse 10, he says, "I take pleasure in my weakness." Paul was learning to be delighted in his weakness. He was learning to be happy about them, and see and to see the blessings from God. You see, if we become happy about our weaknesses and we know our strengths, it's kind of like a marriage. If sometimes the husband is good at some things and the wives are good at others, but see, when they come together, they bring out the best qualities in each other. But see, there's nothing that we can bring out the good qualities in God. See, all God requires of us is just to love on Him. Just to love on Him, and He'll do the rest. He'll work through us. But see, we must look at. See, we got to learn that in the delight that, like I said, Paul had the delight in his weakness, and he was happy about them. And he received them blessings from them. And see, the reason why he delighted in his weakness is because he knew that when he was weak, that God was strong, and that God's grace was ultimately going to bring him through and out of his weakness. See, when we start praising in our weakness, that's when it opens up the door and we begin to receive that power from on high. See, and I don't know about you, but I thank God for my weaknesses. I thank God for all my infirmities. I thank God for my afflictions and my struggles and my heartaches and my trials. It's because of all them. Because each and every one of them has brought me to where I am today. It has brought me to the path that I am on today, and I wouldn't trade any of it for nothing. Because God knew what He was doing on each and every one. And I want to help someone understand this. See, I want to see. See, sometimes I see I feel the powerless, but when I get down, and I can't make it, I can't see the way God does. And I feel like I want to keep it. I want to keep this real for you just for a minute. See, if we look at this text, Paul just told us. He said he about a vision that he had 14 years ago. And now he says, in order to keep me from being self-centered, there was given me a thorn in my side and a message from Satan and buffered me. I can't stop. And I want to look at this just for a minute. See, God always gives us a thorn in our side. Can we say amen to that?
Yes.
He always gives us a thorn. And that thorn, it may be a sickness. It may be a trial. It could be something going on in life. It could be a person. It could be numbers of things that we constantly got that thorn in our side. But but as soon as we get rid of that thorn, we start thinking that we've got through that. See, God has a way to give us another thorn. Because He don't want us to ever think, to ever get big, get all puffed up, that we forget that He's the one that took that thorn away, that He's the one that removed it. It was because of His power and His grace and His glory. See, Paul had this thorn, and it ended up bothering him. See, we don't know what that thorn was. It doesn't say. But see, when he went to God, like I said, he went to God 3 times asking Him to move it. And God didn't answer him. But then on the 3rd time is when God answered him. And He said, my grace is significant. See, I can tell you a secret that sometimes that God doesn't always answer us right away. Sometimes He kind of delays. Because He wants us to stay right. Because He's got us right where He wants us. We may be sitting there scratching our head and say, God, I don't understand. But like you said, it may be years, we may never understand. But right where we're at is where God wants us. And I don't want you to think for a second, because you've asked God to remove you from that, and He hasn't done it, that He's not listening. Like I said, He wants you right where He got you. God wants to keep you right there for a while. But see, it'd be His grace and it'd be His mercy that'll help you to endure that thorn. And then Paul says, therefore, I will boast my infirmities, so that the power of Christ might rest on me. See, and that right there is what it all comes down to, is that the power of God might rest on me. See, I can't help but think that I can't do things on my own, but I can't go and do. If I can go to God and give Him the praise for my weakness and empower, and His power can empower me, then that power might rest upon me. And then next thing you know, He's got us through that situation. We're seeing the light at the end of that tunnel. See, as we stand here, and a lot of times, like I said, people put this front on. They put this that they have nothing wrong. They have nothing wrong with them. That they got everything under control. But see, I dare somebody. As I bring this to a close, I dare someone to look at their situation that they're facing, and don't give up. Just because God has not, He has a way of turning stuff upside down. He has a way of flipping that script. He has a way of getting us through. He doesn't want you to give up. He just wants you to confess your weaknesses and give it all over to Him. Give Him the praise, to pray and praise the one who holds the power, where He can give you the power. And there may be someone here today that feels that powerless, that feels hopeless, that feels like they're going through that depression, or feel like they're going through that storm. And I'm going to say that these altars are open right now, and we're going to come and we're going to pray. And we're going to pray that our weaknesses become our strength. That we just confess them and we turn them over to God and say, God, here's my weaknesses. I'm not embarrassed about them. Matter of fact, here they are. I'm going to brag about them, where you'll give me more blessings, where you'll help me get through whatever it is that we're going through. So I'm going to open these altars right now, and just find you a place to pray at the altar at your seat. But just take that time and confess to God your weaknesses. And just love on Him, because He's the one that has the power. He is the one that has the power. Dear Father, Lord, I just thank you. I just praise you, God, for another day, Lord. Thank you, God, for giving us this day, Lord. Thank you for the power. Thank you for the grace. Thank you, Lord, for saving us, Lord. Thank you for showing us that grace. Thank you for showing us that. We go through these trials in life, Lord, through those weaknesses, Lord, that you reveal, Lord,